Sixers and welcome to today's Science on Household Recycling. We've been learning about sustainability and different types of materials. Today we're going to be looking around the house at different types of recycling and how we recycle at home. So, how does it all begin? We are told which materials we can recycle and which we cannot. And we looked in our science lessons about these. These are the different types of plastic. The plastic films are the really thin pieces of plastic, often put as lids or as carrier bags, and they cannot be recycled. We've got glass bottles and jars, like this one, could be recycled in most places. And then plastic trays and different types of plastic tubs, like this soup tub, sometimes they can be recycled. We wash out any dirty containers and put items into the right containers in the bins. So before we recycle anything, they need washing out. I haven't emptied my milk carton yet, but my other things I have emptied. So what happens next? Your domestic recycling is collected and taken to a materials recovery facility, an MRF. So we put them in our wheelie bins or our buckets. They go out to the materials recovery facility. And if you have two separate containers for recycling, your collection vehicle will have two compartments so that recycling doesn't need to be sorted again. So my recycling at the moment, I have to put my cardboard things left over from Christmas, delicious, separate to all of my glass and my plastic items. And I'm pretty sure it's the same where you are in Manchester too. What happens at the materials recovery facility? At the materials recovery facility, the recyclable materials are sorted into various categories. We've got the paper and cardboard, we've got the metals, we've got plastics, like these ones, now on the floor, and we've got glass, like this one. So how are these materials sorted? If they're all emptied out onto a conveyor belt, and shaken onto a conveyor belt, are sorted in different ways. The materials will be sorted by people, as shown in the pictures, machines, or a mixture of both. In each case, the rubbish goes through the facility on a long conveyor belt. And so in the picture, you've got somebody pulling it out. A recycling machine sorts out the materials in different ways. First, jets of air are used to separate out the card and paper. So you imagine on that belt, a jet of air flying across it. Some of the materials, the light cardboard and the light paper would fly off into the correct place to be recycled. The rubbish then passes over revolving toothed wheels which separate lighter plastics from the heavier metal and glass. So this metal jar is smaller but much heavier than the plastic bottle. So by their weight they can be sorted further. And finally, the rubbish stream is run under a magnet which picks out some of the objects made of metal. So if you're at home and you've got a fridge magnet, take it off, put it against a tin of beans and you'll be able to see that it's attracted to it. Obviously if the tin's full of beans it's not going to be able to pick it up, but the strong magnets will be able to sort out empty tins in the factory. So why are the recycled materials made into bales? Didn't know if you knew this, but they're made into these large blocks. Bales are really easy to stack and transport. The dimensions can be calculated so they fit exactly into containers and onto lorries. So once we've got a whole pile of card or metal or plastics, they can be pushed and squeezed into what we call bales, ready to be packaged and transported elsewhere. So what happens to these bales? The bales of material are then sold to a company that wishes to use them in their manufacturing process. So these bales of plastic bottles can go to a factory to be processed. Some companies use recycled materials because they are cheaper and for environmental reasons. So why are only some types of plastic recycled? In actual fact, almost all plastic can be recycled, even though they're not. What is actually recycled depends on a combination of several things. 1. Are there any buyers for a particular type of plastic? Some plastics are easier to manufacture into something else or are better for other products. So if there's more of those needed, they're more likely to be recycled. Number 2, how easy is it to sort? Buyers will pay more for plastic which is all of the same type. If you mix different types of plastic, it's harder to recycle. So if they get a pure bale of one type of plastic, it's much easier for them to manufacture. Often only plastic bottles are collected from our homes because MRF operatives can count on them being made from the same type of plastic, and therefore will be able to produce these pure bales with just one type of plastic within them. Now, if you excuse the fact that my head cuts into part of this, I almost memorised it. Other types of plastic are accepted at recycling sites, such as those in supermarket car parks, and these materials can be collected separately, then taken to different MRFs. So that means that although we only can, some bins only take bottles, you can take other types of plastic like this to certain supermarkets or roadside collection points, so that they can then be turned into something new, can then be recycled. How can you tell these plastics apart? Plastic is classified according to its chemical structure. Different plastics have different properties and uses. Lots of plastic objects use a resin identification code. The number displayed in the chasing arrows out symbol tells recyclers which type of plastic the object is made from. The symbol will normally be found on the plastic rather than on the label. And I searched my plastic for them. And at the bottom of my pot here, I found a little triangle with arrows, and it's got the number 5 in it, whereas my bottle, which is much easier to recycle, has the number 2 on it, slightly bigger, and it has the number 2. I suspect if you check your milk bottle, it would also have a 2 and a triangle underneath it too, just like this one. What different types of plastic are there? So this one, number 1, is polyethylene terephthalate, PET, so soft drinks and water bottles. Then number 2, high density polyethylene, HDPE, water pipes, hula hoop rings, milk jugs. Symbol number 3 is PVC, polyvinyl chloride, much tougher plastic. The picture there is of some guttering, PVC, for trays for fruit, for piping, trunking, more stable jobs. Then we've got the plastic bags, low density polyethylene, LDPE, the cling film, toys, plastic bags and adhesives like sellotape. Then we've got yogurt pots, number 5, same as my soup pot, polypropylene, PP, containers for fruit, margarine, sauce and bottles. Then the polystyrene, the sort of spongy plastic used for takeaways, number 6, polystyrene, PS, for foam cups, plates, CD cases, egg cartons, can be the meat plastic trays as well. And a really hard type of plastic often used for cups or in this case a baby's beaker, number 7. Any other type of plastic, often a mix of more than one resin, for example polycarbonate. It's just abbreviated as other, so sports bottles and baby bottles. So what is the difference between upcycling and downcycling? So recycling can either be upcycling or downcycling. Some materials cannot retain the purity required to make a new product of the same quality, so they're downcycled, used to make products of a lower quality. In this example, we've got paper and plastic. They can be changed into something of poorer quality. For example, paper that's good enough quality to write on can be recycled into something like toilet paper, which is of lower quality. Upcycling, a material is considered to have been upcycled if it is made into an item of higher quality or value than the original object. For example, plastic carrier bags can be turned into costume jewellery, like the little plastic gems inside jewellery. That would be upcycling. The plastic jewellery would be worth more money than the carrier bag. So how are paper and card recycled? Paper and cardboard are sorted and graded at the materials recovery facility and then sent to paper mills. The paper and card is mixed with water to form a slurry and then washed to remove ink, glue and other impurities. Then it is dried into huge sheets ready for reuse. A newspaper can be recycled into another newspaper in just 7 days. How is glass recycled? Most glass is reused to make more glass bottles and jars, but a small amount ends up being reused as aggregate in building projects. Lasers are used to help separate the different colours of glass, and then sorted glass is crushed into a substance called cullet. This is then mixed with other substances and heated until the liquid that can be poured and moulded to make new glass bottles and jars. How is plastic recycled? First, plastic is sorted and baled and sent to a reprocessing plant. Next, the plastic is cleaned and sorted again. The plastic is then ground into flakes which are sorted and cleaned again. The plastic is melted and cooled into beads which are ready to be reused. So what are the plastics recycled into? So the first type can be recycled into car bumpers, luggage, clothing, food and drink containers. The second type, playground equipment, bottles for laundry detergent, pipes, buckets and bins. The third type, binders, notebooks, mud flaps on cars, traffic cones, buckets and bins. Number 4, bin liners, can pack rings. Number 5, ice scrapers, rakes and bike racks. Number 6, light switch plates, cafeteria trays, plates and cups. And finally, number 7 can be recycled into plastic lumber. So your task today is to find and take photographs of 3 pieces of packaging that can be recycled and 3 pieces of packaging that can't be recycled. Once you've done that, can you upload your photographs onto Class Dojo? It doesn't matter if your items aren't empty, but you could take pictures of jars which can be recycled in your bin and milk bottles that can, and then perhaps find some that could be recycled but can't be recycled just in an ordinary bin, might have to go somewhere else, and then see if you can find some things that you can't put into your bins at home to be recycled. Once you've done that, to remind you again, pop your photos onto Class Dojo.